So now we're in 5.2, right? We're going to write an equation from a proportional table. So let's see that. Data was collected about the amount of gasoline used for each mile driven for a large truck. Find the constant of proportionality, right? So we're saying that it must be proportional, that all of these are equal. And I think they all are. They all equal what? 14. So K equals 14. So the unit rate here was, right, that's K, and the unit rate is 14 miles per gallon. Right, and that's what, how many miles was the truck able to drive for each gallon of gas used? 14 miles for each gallon of gas used, 14 mpg. So we're going to write an equation that looks like that, as m equals 50h from a table. So first of all, is the relationship here proportional? So that we have to check. So is 18 over 2 equal to 27 over 3 equal to 36 over 4 equal to 45 over 5? Yes, they are all equal. K equals 9. So to write an equation to make that table, you use this form, y equals k times x. So let's see. So what you would write is y equals 9 times x. And we're going to write it right there. Now, what does that mean? It means the y number is always 9 times the x number. Let's see if that's true. 2 times 9 equals 18. Yeah. 3 times 9 equals 27. 4 times 9. Yes. So we can write an equation. Why do we want to do that? Well, if I now say x is 10, right, without doing all this down here, what could we do? Well, it's 90, right? Because y is always 9 times whatever x is. K is the multiplier, or we say coefficient, of x. All right, so what's going on here? So we're going to, first of all, we have to check all of these equal to 7.5, right? We have to check that first. 15 divided by 2. Well, 14 divided by 2 is 7, right? So, yeah, that's 7.5. Is 22.5 divided by 3 also 7.5? 3 times 7 is 21. Remainder 1, decimal straight up. 3 in the 5th, yep, so yes. So K here is 7.5. They are all equal to 7.5. So what equation would we write for this? We would write y equals 7.5 times x. All right, so now it says find K and write an equation to describe the proportional rate. So we don't have to check. All right, now let's look at this. What is K? Remember, to find K, it's always y over x. So we have 1 over 2, right? Once we have, since I told you they were proportional, right? We just need the simplified fraction, the 1/2. So the equation that made this is y equals 1/2 of x, right? 2 times 1/2 equals 1. 4 times 1/2 equals 2, and so on. So you're taking the x coordinate and multiplying it by 1/2. The correct equation is y equals 1/2 x. K is 1/2, right? Y over x for K. So y over x for K. So I got 3/12. So that is 1/4. K is 1/4. We know this is proportional. The others better equal 1/4. So the equation that made that table is y equals 1/4 of x. You take whatever x is, like 12, multiply it by 1/4, you get 3. Fill in the equation for y equals 12x. Well, if x is 1, y is 12. So what's 2 times 12? 24. What times, right, so what times 12 equals 36? Well, clearly 3. 4 times 12 is 48. And what made 60? 5 made 60. Now, I made a nice pattern there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's not necessarily so. So make sure you check what's going on there. We can use variables other than y and x to represent real-world amounts. Note that K is the unit rate. All right, find K and write an equation to describe the proportional relationship in miles per gallon. So the general equation is with y and x, but now we're going to use other letters, other variables, because we're talking about real world things like miles and gallons, right? So it says this is a proportional relationship. So it's miles to gallons, right? So K here is 120 over 3. K equals 40. So now we need the equation. So it's the bottom one, right? The bottom one is always where y is, and the top one is always where x is. So y, m, instead of y, we're going to use m for miles, equals 40 times g. This is getting 40 miles per gallon. This is a great car, right? Now you can check your work, because it's g times 40 that makes 120. Right? It's g times 40. So make sure that you have the g there and the m there. Find the cost per ride unit rate at the county fair and write an equation to describe the proportional relationship. Well, you can see right there, it's $2.50 for a ride. So we're going to say K equals 2.5. And we're going to use, I didn't give you the letters, but let's use C for cost. And let's use R for ride. So C equals 2.5. R is the equation we're going to write. It was $2, and by the way, $2.50 per ride. That was the unit rate. We don't use mixed numbers in equations, right? So you're going to use fractions or decimals. So let's see that. So here, right, it's cost per apple. So it's 6 over 4, right? It's any of these, but none of those are simplified. But we can simplify that 3 halves. Now you would, right, so K here is 3 halves. Right? You are not going to make that 1.5. You could make it 1.5, but C equals 3 halves P, well, I guess it's pounds of apples. I should have used P because I put P there. Use the letters I've asked for. So, or you could write 1.5, but 4 times 3 halves equals 6, right? You cancel. 6 times 3 halves equals 9, and so on. All right, so C equals 3 halves P. So this, it's height to weeks here. This is maybe a plant growing, how fast it was growing. And we've got 7 over 2, so we can just leave that. That's a simplified fraction. We don't have to do this work of 10.5 divided by 3 or the other ones. But you can see 14 over 4 simplifies to 7 over 2. So we're going to use H equals 7 halves W. Right? The height is 7 halves, or 3.5, times the number of weeks. Ken was paid at a rate of $15 per hour. Write an equation and complete the table for the given times. Right? So if his pay is $15 times the number of hours he worked. So for 1 hour he makes 15, 2 he makes 30, 3 he makes 45, 4 he makes 60. That's how it works. A tree is growing at a rate of 3.5 feet per year. Write an equation and complete the table for the given times. Remember, the rate is always K. So we're going to use, now, this is Y for years, right? So H equals 3.5 times Y. So now we actually have to do some work, right? So 1 year it grows to 3.5. Now 2 times 3.5 is 7, right? Because 3.5 times 2 plus 3.5 would be 7. Add another 3.5, you get to 10.5. 3 times, and if you want to check it, you could. It's 10.5. 4 must be twice as high as 2, so that must be 14. And then 5, add another 3.5 is 17.5. It's going up 3.5 feet every year. And notice we don't put feet in the equation. We just write the height is 3.5 times the number of years. The other one, we don't put dollars. Oh, I put that. By the way, I want to just fix that. So P equals 15H. Do that. Lou drove 100 miles in 2 hours. He drove 100 miles in 2 hours. Assuming he always drives at the same rate, complete the table and write an equation to describe his distance traveled in terms of hours. So if he drives 100 miles in 2 hours, that's 50 miles per hour. That's our unit rate. So K equals 50 here. And the equation is the number of miles equals 50 times the number of hours. So in 0 hours, he must drove 0, because 50 times 0 is 0. And 1, he drove 50. 2, he drove 3. 2, he drove 100. 3, he drove 150. And 4, he drove 200 miles. The miles will always be 4 times the number of hours. I've given you a table, but the truth is you only need 2 points. So let's see that. Find the rate of pay for the bartender and write an equation to describe the proportional relationship between dollars earned and hours worked. So it's going to be dollars per hour. So it's 60 over 2. We know he makes $60 over 2 hours, or $150 over 5 hours. Both of those, the rate of pay is $30 per hour. That's his unit rate. And his K here is 30. So the equation we're going to write with his pay is 30 times H. He's making $30 every hour. Let's practice. All right, so the cost per pound is 2 over 4, which is 1/2. Oh, but I have to check, is the relationship proportional? So are they all 1/2? Is 5/10 and 7/14 1/2? Yes. So the answer is yes. K equals 1/2. The equation is C equals 1/2 P. Here we have 40 over 2, which is 20. We have 100 over 6. That is not 20. This is no. So you can't write an equation for this. So let's make that clear. You can't write an equation unless it's a proportional relationship. Now, at least in this lesson, we'll talk about other equations and other relationships in a little bit, but not today. Find the cost per ride at the fair and write an equation for the proportional relationship. So it's dollars per ride, and it's $12.50 for 5 rides and $15 for 6 rides. So those both should be equal because it says it's the proportional relationship. Let's do 15 divided by 6. 6 goes to 15 twice, remainder 3. 15 has a decimal, straight up, 0 straight down. 6 and 30 goes exactly 5. All right, so K here is 2.5. It was the unit rate, right, is $2.50 per ride. I should be a little neater. That's very sloppy. And the equation will be C equals 2.5R. So here it's y over x. It says it's a proportional relationship, that all of these are equal. So you don't have to actually do what I'm doing. But they all simplify to what? They all simplify to 1/5. So that equals k. And the equation is y equals 1/5 of x. Good luck on the homework.